my YouTube channel. In our today's episode of Nurturing the Whole Child, we look at the importance of handling every child as an individual. Children may look the same. Even children born of the same parents may appear similar or resemble each other in certain ways. But it's very important for anyone handling children, whether a caregiver, a teacher, or a parent, to realize that every child is an individual. No child looks like the other in the way they think, in the way they see things, the way they feel, their interest and their disinterest. Every child is unique. And so that we can handle and so that we can influence a child in totality, we need to realize the uniqueness of every child. They could be the same age, they could be the same class, they could be even born at the same time, but the truth is that no child is like any other. So for us to bring out the very best out of every and each child, then we need to realize and celebrate that uniqueness right from home. Every parent should realize, even when they are born to the same parents, children could be so different. They could be of different interests. They could be gifted differently, and so they should be celebrated differently as such. So it is the duty of every parent to look for the uniqueness of their child. Look for the little small things that you can celebrate about your child. Whatever it is, however small it is you to bring it out from your child. It could be the way your little child likes giving you hugs. So it's you to call it out. Talk to your child and tell them, I just like the way, you are so warm, the way you are so kind. If it is your child calling you after school and asking you, Mommy, how are you? Then it is you to point it out and celebrate it. Let them know you appreciate and you single it out. You see how different they are from other children. Talk it out. If they are good at certain chores, some children are tidier than others. Some children are good in art, others are good in drawing, others are good in sport. So it's you to call out the greatness in your own child. And even as we talk about the uniqueness and celebrating the uniqueness of every child, so that we work towards building them in totality, we need to realize that, well, this can happen at home. We also need to extend the same at other places where children are. Even in a classroom setup, as a teacher, as you interact with your learners, you need to realize that these children, whether they are of the same age set or in the same class, none of them is exactly like the other. There will be that child who is laid back and may not always want to express themselves or put up their hands as you are asking questions in class. So what does that tell you as a teacher? You need to look for that child. You need to devise ways and mechanisms of making them feel part of the class, because every time we are handled as individuals, then it's usually easier for us to shine the little stars that are in us, that little light that is in me. If someone celebrates it and brings it out, then as a child it goes a long way in helping this child to bring out the very best that is in them. So in handling children as individuals, we need to realize one very important thing, that childhood in itself is part of life. As we are taking care of a child, whether at school or at home, we need to realize that childhood is a part of life and it is not simply a preparation for adulthood. A lot of times as we are dealing with children, we are looking at them like, well, we are here to feed them and to help them now get into adulthood. So that is why we could be tempted to postpone every investment in them, in their being, until when they get into adulthood. So we think that they are little children, all they need is food and toys and play and nothing else. There is more to childhood because in itself is a stage in life, it's part of life. This child is living, they're not going to start living again when they get into adulthood. And remember, when they get into adulthood, how their adult life turns out is very much dependent on how they were handled as children. So child handlers need to realize that childhood is not a stage that we are to take lightly. No, we don't say that now I'll start getting serious, I'll start spending more time with my child once they get into adulthood. I'm going to wait. Now I'll take our discussion seriously when my son is in the university and maybe 20 years of age. Now that's an adult, At least at that point I can have meaningful conversations with them. No. At childhood, when they are as young as newborns, that is a stage, it's part of life. They are already living their life. So you're not going to force them as you wait for them to get into adulthood. So you engage with your child at their levels. The conversations you're going to have with your toddler cannot possibly be the same conversations you're going to have with your preteen or with your teen. So even as we walk the journey with our children into adulthood, it starts at childhood, where we are cognizant of their uniqueness, of their individuality. So, and that calls us to look into the way they appreciate love. How does a child understand or appreciate when I show them love? There are those children who will want their parents around them. Just be home, spend time with them. So quality time speaks to them. There are children who love gifts regardless of all that you could say. If you don't come home with gifts, then you're not reaching to the uniqueness of this child. There are children who are fine with being told, well done, you know, keep it up, bravo, kudos, that was amazing. So there are children who are good with that and they thrive in that. And how do we get to know what our children or under what or what language of love does our children does your child understand? We get to know this if we are able to look at them as individuals. Looking at your 5-year-old as any other child in early childhood. But that is your child, that is the child you have. Your focus is on them. You need to understand how do they understand, what kind of, do they feel I love them more when I give them hugs? Or is it when I bring a gift? Or is it when I affirm them? Or is it, when I spend quality time with them? Just as adults, there are things that speak to us. So is it for children. Looking at the uniqueness of every child will definitely help us to nurture them in totality without leaving any aspect of their growth. And such and so it is even at school, because learning for children is not fragmented. We don't say now we are learning this and so this other option poses and weight. No, just the same way the whole person of the child is important as we design our upbringing, as we design our caregiving strategies, or as we design our teaching strategies. If we are teachers, we are concerned about their health, we are concerned about their physical growth, we are concerned about their mental growth, we are concerned about their feelings, we are concerned about their thinking, we are even concerned about their spirituality. We need to realize that as they are learning, whether at home or at school, everything counts. Learning is not broken into bits, it's not compartmentalized. Everything in the context is important. And so, as we look at these children as unique individuals, then we need to design programs that help them to be intrinsically motivated. And for a child to be motivated from within, then they need to be involved in programs that are tailored with their interests and disinterests, and their personalities in context. You need to look at how does this child learn, what motivates them, what makes them tick, what what do they want? Because even when a child is given to the best of teachers, if the teacher does not understand this child as a unique individual or as a unique learner in their class, then it's not possible for even the best teacher to help this child learn. So the other thing is that we need to realize again that once a child is looked at as an individual and helped to be intrinsically motivated, motivated, then this child definitely feels valued. They're able to self-direct themselves because their greatness is being called out. And so they feel the need to display exactly who they are because they are not afraid, they are not worried, they're not concerned that they'll be judged in a certain way. They realize they are in a space where they are considered unique and they are loved for who they are. We need also to realize that as we look at children as individuals, there is that inner self of a child, and it is the same also for adults. There is that inner self of you. There is who you are. There is who you are that you so desire to bring out. And interestingly, this inner self for everyone, although in our context we are looking at children, can only come out when we are put in very conducive environment. So we need to bring out that inner person so that we know our children for who they are, not for who we want them to be. Because as adults, most of the time, there is how we want our children to appear. There is, that image we want to project. At times, we're even tempted to dress our children not the way they want to dress, but the way we want them to be seen. But when you put your child in a space where they know I am appreciated for who I am taken for who I am, I'm celebrated for who I am, and not what I do, then this child is able to talk to you and tell you what they are not comfortable with. For the longest time, I struggled with one of my children, one of my daughters, about wearing trousers. Just especially between the ages of 5 and 8. It just wasn't their thing. And I would always have the reason as to why I want them to be in trousers. And the girl would comfortably and easily tell me, Mom, I'm more comfortable in dresses. So I realized that it's not about how I want her to appear, but it is what makes her feel comfortable. And once I did that, our fights around what to dress up in and what not to dress up in ended. So it's easier even to deal with parenting when we realize that a child thrives in a space where they are being allowed to be who they are and where who they are is encouraged to grow, even of course, as we nurture and as we give guidance. Because again, remember, they are in our hands as parents, as caregivers, as teachers to also nurture. We are talking about nurturing the whole child. So even as we nurture, there are boundaries we are going to set, there are instructions we are going to give. But even as we do all this, our aim is not to gag these children and to make them grow up to be something that they were not made to be, you know. So even as we look at these children, we need to realize that for children, so much matters. The home environment, it's important for them to have a home. But then the context of the home is equally important. In their uniqueness, who is in their space? Who are they interacting with? Who is their caregiver? Who is the child they play with? So the adults in their lives, the children in their lives, they are all important. And so as we take care of this uniqueness, we need to see how does this child interact with their peers? How does this child interact with adults? By adults here, I mean the caregivers, the parents, and the teachers. So a lot of focus needs to be put in even as you bring up children so that it doesn't feel like just a phase that it's not so serious. I mean, we are now waiting to pull up our socks to get very serious when they get into adulthood because we are talking about quality care that is aimed at bringing up and nurturing the whole child. And in quality care, there are three very important things. The child himself, the context of where am I growing up, and the content. So is the context considering my uniqueness as a person, the content, whatever I'm learning, whatever I'm being exposed to, does it consider the unique individual that I am? Because the only way we can nurture a holistic child is by realizing that regardless of how similar in other demographics children look like in terms of age, even in terms of appearance, even in terms of background, however similar they may be, then they still have their own uniqueness. Every person has their own uniqueness, and we are not going to nurture a child in a holistic way if we don't pause, whether at home, whether at school, whether even in Sunday school, and in all spaces that children go, even in play areas. Sometimes you take your child out to play, and you're so excited and you can't wait to see how they are going to enjoy. But then they just look at the space and they come back to you and they go like, I'm not comfortable here. Mom, I'm not happy here. Dad, I'm not happy here. And you're feeling a bit disappointed. How come you don't appreciate this? Maybe the space doesn't speak to their uniqueness. Maybe the space is too loud. Maybe the space is too slow. And this is a child who loves fast spaces. So I would urge all parents, all caregivers, all educators, if a child has been placed in your hands, please take your time, look at them, get to know them for who they are, understand their uniqueness. Children begin to show aspects of their personalities early in life. Look at them. And as you're designing whatever program it is that you're designing, their program for childcare, their home program, be considerate of what this child likes. In a home with three children, there's a child who will be fine staying at home the whole weekend. There's another child who will cannot wait to get out. So they are always asking, Daddy, are we going somewhere? Mom, are we going somewhere? Auntie, are we going somewhere? That's fine. You don't start rebuking them and telling them that your work is always to talk about going. Where do you always want to go? Don't you appreciate what we have? No, 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 that's not necessary. This is a child already showing who they are. So if you are to nurture them, you are going to nurture them well into an holistic person only if you consider and you're considerate of their uniqueness. There's this child who is just fine with you being at home, even if you are not doing much with them, they just need your presence there. And there's another one who will keep saying, come, we play together. Come, let's do this together. So, especially in early years, that's when we begin to do this bonding. We need to show them that I appreciate who you are for who you are. And as we do that, we are building bonds that last even into a teenage and into adulthood. So once again, it's very important for anyone handling children to realize that childhood, and by childhood here, I'm talking about the span of development from birth all the way to 18 years. It's not a stage in preparation for adulthood. It is a stage in life on its own, and it needs to be handled seriously. We are not waiting, we are not grooming this child for something else. They are already living. So can we handle them as people or as beings who are already living part of their lives, and we need to be careful and very intentional not to miss out on this very important stage of development. So we continue with our journey on nurturing the whole child. I request you not to forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel, as we shall have much, much more coming in the coming days as we look into how to nurture children into their fullest potential, as we consider and as we realize how unique they each are.